What if the most powerful military alliance in human history quietly started falling apart? And what if it had everything to do with one man sitting in the White House? Now, here is what is actually happening. Europe is drawing up a plan B, a backup strategy, a contingency for a world where the United States is no longer the reliable big brother that shows up when things go sideways. And no, this is not hypothetical. This is being discussed right now in real policy rooms across the continent. So today we are going to break down exactly what a weakened NATO would look like, why Europe is suddenly panicking, and yes, why India should absolutely be paying attention to all of this. Now let us start with the basics. NATO has existed since 1949. For over 70 years, it has been the backbone of Western security, built on one core promise: if you attack one of us, and you attack all of us. And for decades, that promise worked because it had American military muscle behind it. The US contributes around 60% of the entire alliance's defense spending. It provides the satellite intelligence, the nuclear deterrent, the missile defense systems, the logistics. Europe basically outsourced a massive chunk of its own security to Washington, and that worked fine until it did not. Then Donald Trump came back and things got uncomfortable very fast. Even before his second term, Donald Trump had been openly questioning whether the United States should defend NATO members who were not pulling their financial weight. But after January last year, 2025, two specific moments really rattled European leaders. First, Trump pushed to acquire Greenland, which belongs to Denmark, a NATO ally. Then, during the Iran war, serious questions came up about how far America's allies would be expected to follow Washington into military action. And those two episodes forced a very uncomfortable question right into European boardrooms. Can we actually still count on America? And here is what makes this reality serious. The US National Defense Strategy for 2026 essentially says that Russia is a manageable threat. Europe should handle more of its own security, and America's real focus is China and the Indo-Pacific. Now, that is a seismic shift in American strategic thinking, and Europe knows it. According to analysis by The Economist and the European Policy Center, the expectation is that America's share of NATO's military contribution could drop to around 50% by 2027, and Europe has no choice but to step up. Germany is rearming at a historic pace. Poland has become one of the fastest growing military powers on the continent. Defense budgets are rising sharply. But here is the problem, viewers. Money alone does not solve this particular problem. The US brings capabilities Europe simply cannot replicate quickly. Think strategic transport aircraft, advanced cyber infrastructure, satellite intelligence networks, a full nuclear umbrella. Building all of that independently, well, that takes not years, that takes decades. And it is not even like Europe is one unified bloc. There is a serious east-west divide. Eastern European countries like Poland and the Baltic states, countries that actually border Russia, they want maximum deterrence and maximum spending. And Western Europe tends to be more cautious. Then there is the north-south divide. The Nordic countries, especially after Finland and Sweden joined NATO, are increasingly coordinating as one tight strategic unit. Southern Europe, meanwhile, is dealing with completely different threats. North Africa instability, Middle East fallout. Now, these divisions matter because a more European-led NATO only works if Europeans can agree with each other. Now, here is where India enters into the conversation. Well, India has always played the long game: strategic autonomy, no formal military alliances, relationships maintained with everyone from Washington to Moscow to Beijing. And here is the thing. A world where traditional alliances become less dominant is actually a world where India's approach becomes more relevant. A Europe looking for independent, strategic partnerships could open serious doors for India in defense, manufacturing, cybersecurity, and maritime cooperation. But there is a flip side to this. A weakened NATO is arguably very good news for China. Beijing has spent years arguing that American alliances are Cold War relics. If NATO visibly fractures, China gets a massive propaganda win and potentially a freer hand in the Indo-Pacific, which is the exact theatre where India is trying to hold the line against Chinese expansion alongside partners like Japan, Australia, and the United States. So, where does all of this land? NATO is not collapsing tomorrow, but the alliance is changing for sure, and changing very fast. Europe is waking up to a reality where American commitment can no longer be taken for granted. For India, this is not a distant European problem. It is a live geopolitical reshuffling that touches Russia, China, the Indo-Pacific, and the entire framework of global security. Now, the question is not whether this shift happens. Analysts are increasingly saying that it already is happening. The real question is whether the world is ready for what comes next.